Hello, hi, welcome. Welcome to the Mark It Down podcast. My name is Mark, but you can call me Bojack, host Mark. I'm joined by four other people actually, sorry. Their names are also Mark. We have Mark Gisante, a guy who could play a dad in any sitcom, especially with that mustache. We have a guy who does not start bar fights, but sometimes finishes them, Reverend Mark. We have a guy who recently escaped the fate, Nick Maniotis, and we have Chad Big Mark Johnson. Did you know your name is very suggestive if you're immature? It means a lot of inappropriate things if you think about it. Anyway, we're here to talk about wrestling for a change of pace. Thought we'd mix it up. Isn't that lovely? But first, make sure you like and subscribe, because if we hit 100 subscribers, James will write a rap and perform it for the class. Doesn't that sound neat? So anyway, our first topic, hey, wait your turn to talk. Our first topic, since there is no AEW tonight, and we will get to that, is actually the tournaments going on in WWE to crown the Monarch of the Mat, also known as King of the Ring and the Queen's Crown. I don't mean to start things off on a super negative note, but my intro was longer than any one of the women's matches in this tournament so far. And I would say that Shayna Baszler should, of course, have been squashing her opponent and winning instantly. But the rest of these matches went about the same length. And I would say that in two of them, the wrong person won. So as a group of men with various backgrounds, mostly white, who better to explain how this should have been handled? I'll run it over to the little engine that might, Jimmy.
I need everyone at home to know that as he was doing that introduction, every single one of us was jaw dropped and covering in fear. That was both beautiful and horrendous, and I appreciate you so much. And I will not do a rap. I don't care. Like, maybe if we hit 1,000 soon, I'll write a rap.
It's already been said. It's in the ether, so it's nothing you can do about it.
Once it's said, you can't unsay it, can you? I am
James the Toolman Taylor. We need you to rap.
Wow. I am Tim Allen who got arrested for drug smuggling. Tim Allen. I am not Buzz Lightyear. Tim Allen. But
you're
anyway.
Bud Lightyear.
Bud Lightyear.
Wow. Guys, this is what happens when we don't have AEW. So I am typically a huge fan of the King of the Ring. I am a huge fan of now. I love the fact that we're getting the women involved. I just hate the execution essentially across the board. For the women, the fact that all but one of the men's matches have been longer than all of the women's matches combined is a travesty. No one is benefiting from this. No one on the women's side is benefiting from this. And the men's bracket has become based due to restrictions about who can go to Saudi Arabia. The finals are basically predicted already. We already know how this is going to go. So I don't know who's been booking this, but shame on them. This was a perfect opportunity to get a very underrepresented division in WWE time to shine in the women, and they just squandered it. And for the men, I'm happy for Xavier Woods that he's in this tournament. It's something he's wanted. I'm happy that Finn Balor is doing well, but the fact that the finals, and I won't spoil it for anyone who isn't aware of things going on behind the scenes of how these matches should go, or are looking like they're going to go, but it feels like a very unsatisfying tournament, and it just a shame. Just a shame.
So I think those are some great points. I'm going to say for now, let's stick to the women's tournament, because I do want to ask you guys for who you think is going to win the tournaments. I do want some potential spoilers. But Nick, what do you think, man? Your first time back on the pod in a couple of weeks. We haven't heard your voice in a while. Let's hear it.
Yeah, thanks for having me back. It's been a crazy couple of weeks on my end. Lots of stuff. So unfortunately, with the way it's being booked, I absolutely agree that there seems to be a lot of like wins that should not have happened. More specifically, Liv Morgan getting eliminated in the first round, with the like consistent outpour of "We want Liv Morgan" all over social media. They still kind of seem to be on the fence about her. Like I had heard rumors about them saying, well, early on in the day, they thought about having her win. And I'm like, well, why did you switch? You could have brought her a little further, gave her some credibility. Now, I will say I do like that Zelina advanced. Do I like that it was over Toni Storm? Not necessarily. You brought Toni Storm up to the main roster and she's won one match. It's very, I feel like the way they set it up, again, no one benefits from it. And then, but even still, I wouldn't be upset about these people losing if the matches weren't recorded 2 minutes and 14 seconds, a minute and 58 seconds. You could have given them even like 6 or 7 minutes and they would have had a great match. But it's being squandered, and I think everyone probably feels essentially the same way. Now, at this point, who do I want to win? My I guess desire for it is just I would really love to see Shayna Baszler come out on top here. I'm a pretty big, admittedly, Shayna Baszler fan. I mean, she's already got the Queen of Spades moniker. I think it would be silly for them not to kind of capitalize on that. But again, who knows where they're going to go with this? Maybe they'll just say, screw it, we're just going to give it to Carmella because that's kind of what we do. We just give things to Carmella.
They do give Carmella random wins in big matches, so
Yeah.
That's not out of the realm of possibilities. Chad, what do you think? I feel like you're going to have something negative to say, and I want to hear it.
Absolutely negative. Everybody knows my motto: high quality horse shit. I feel like with, like James said, such a prestigious tournament that everybody usually is hyped for, the duration of the matches has been god awful. The booking itself hasn't been very well. I'm kind of with you guys. The winners, like, I'm cool with Carmella. I don't hate Carmella, but her winning over Liv was definitely a misfire. I just feel like the opportunity to build and establish the foundation for these great women superstars is kind of going down the toilet. It's more of the same. It's just the same shit over and over. As far as winners, I hate to say it, I kind of do think Carmella's going to win probably Shayna or at least Zelina should win. Give us a little reflection.
That is admittedly, and I'm so sorry for cutting you off. That is admittedly my number one pick. I love Zelina Vega.
No, I love Zelina as well. I really, really wished Liv would win the whole thing, but it's looking very Carmella-ish right around now.
I can see that. James, looked like you wanted to add one more thing before we go to Rev.
To bounce off what was said earlier, apparently not only was Liv expected to win the first round, there were a lot of talks that she was supposed to win the whole thing.
Yeah.
And for such a drastic change, something major needed to have been said or done to change their mind on her, and I just don't understand it. I agree. I want Rev to be able to speak, but I'm on the same boat as everyone else. I want Shayna to get her due, and I think if we're gonna go with the corny thing that they do with most Kings of the Ring, which is somebody acts like a king for a while, I think Zelina Vega would kill that gimmick, having her as like this crown jewel, this queen of the ring.
Oh yeah.
I think there's so much potential there, but yeah.
Rev?
Well, I mean, in that same vein too, I think you could also go with Carmella in that. I think she would do a very good job wearing the crown and being an absolute, bitch and going that way. I think it's well established on the show that I have basically just dropped watching WWE. I can't do it anymore. So I'm more or less learning a lot of these results in real time at the moment. And just looking at it, I'm pissed. And I haven't watched a single thing. And I knew about the times, and I'll get to that in a second. But I know they've been building Liv Morgan for a while, and she's had a bit of a feud with Carmella. This seems like a perfect opportunity to put Liv over Carmella and give her that win. Nah, let's not do that. We're going with Carmella. Having Toni Storm lose, somebody you just brought up, has barely been mentioned on the roster. Last week, I forgot she was even up. I wasn't sure when we were talking about the draft. So you put her against Zelina Vega, and granted, I like Zelina Vega, and I think what James said is a good idea. Excuse me, have her wear the crown and be the queen and everything and go around. That's a good idea too. But this seems like another instance where you put over a promising young talent, or at least new talent, and they don't. Dewdrop, I got it on 4. Whatever. But I think Shayna Baszler should be the clear favorite here. I think she would benefit most coming out of this, out of the 4 women left, of being the queen. Go ahead, Nick.
Someone actually brought up a very good point. I would love if Dewdrop wins and just like they go to the ring and they give her an Austin 316 moment, and they're like, Dewdrop, congratulations on being, the queen or whatever. And she's just like, my name isn't Dewdrop, it's Piper Niven, and just like goes back to her. Cause like, so I don't know if you guys watched Piper Niven in NXT UK at all, but like, she was awesome. She was a badass. She had a great theme song. She had a great, like, oh my God, she was amazing. And like the fact that they kind of called her up and made her this like bubbly, dancey, almost like Emma character, it just kind of is like frustrating.
So,
go ahead,
James.
No,
go
go
ahead. I was literally just a segue, so go ahead, James.
I know that Dewdrop, FKA Piper Nivens, wasn't happy with the name change initially, but she said once she sort of got a handle on it, she understood what they were going for. They did want a character that would be something for the kids. And I think she's coming across as, unfortunately for this next person, a lot more genuine than, say, Nikki Ash or ASH. And I don't blame Nikki for that. I think Nikki was put in a bad position with her gimmick, but I could see how Dewdrop is good for kids, because she is like, I'm very happy about it. She's a very different body type in that division, and she's not being portrayed as a bad guy in, say, the same way Nia Jax was.
But she doesn't have to be. She doesn't have to be a bad guy. She doesn't have to be the Nia Jax, monster heel. She can just be like, represent kick-ass women.
Oh hell yeah! I think we can all agree Dewdrop is a weird choice.
It is,
but
look, admittedly, I kind of like it. I think it works for her. She made it work.
Well, it's definitely different.
I think I'm just being like cranky, wrestling fan, when I just like, I want to see Piper Niven on the main roster. I want to see, Viper Piper.
Yes, Nick is very optimistic about the wrestlers he likes not getting buried.
And I have to be, because it's the only way I'm going to keep watching wrestling.
So, I could see Dewdrop winning this, but I do think it's going to be Shayna Baszler, especially after Toni and Liv were eliminated. And just my quick 2 cents on it. I think my biggest problem, again, because I like Zelina Vega too, so I don't want no disrespect to Zelina Vega, but the fact that Zelina Vega has won literally 1 match since she came back, and maybe like 2 matches, period, and then she beat Toni Storm, says a lot about Toni Storm's near future. And the fact that they could have had a very interesting semifinals of Liv Morgan and Toni Storm, where it's like, oh, the new girl from NXT versus Liv, who has faced and beaten Carmella like 12 freaking times in the last 4 weeks. And the fact that they go the complete opposite out of that seems a little ridiculous. Rev, you had your hand up. You have one more thing you want to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to get back to my point about Shayna. I think they're going more back to what she was in NXT, which was just a stone cold killer. And I think her winning this Queen's Crown tournament gives her the legitimacy back that she once had in NXT, that she is that person. And everyone else had gone through how short the matches were as opposed to the men's matches. And I actually have the times here, and I just want to read them off. The men's matches ran 7 minutes, 58 seconds, 11 minutes, 25 seconds, 10 minutes, 55 seconds, and 8 minutes, 55 seconds. The women's matches went 210, 140, 124, 302.
Blasphemy.
Goddamn. Yeah, so
what the hell?
I think we've all almost like it, because we're used to it at this point, but we've all said our piece about the times of the match. But to just quickly piggyback off your point before we do drop the topic and move on, if Shayna Baszler is relaunched as this monster, I think she's the only person I can see winning and not immediately losing to Charlotte. Because I think if anyone else wins, they're just going to lose their title match that they maybe get afterwards.
Is that a thing?
But I'm just saying, like, they're definitely going to do that. Like, they're definitely going to do it.
It does set up nicely.
It's not set in stone, but it's like, well, what else is that person going to do besides go challenge for the title, especially in the women's division where there's nothing else to do if you're not challenging for the title. But speaking of wrestling tournaments that aren't the G1 or this tournament, we are on our way to overthrowing the tyrannical Shinsuke Nakamura and his mustachio jester, the guy with the guitar. And
that is Rick Boogs. That is Eric Bugenhagen. You put some respect on that name.
Sure, yeah. All due respect. He plays guitar. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and he's like amazing. And we love Rick Boogs here.
Love's a strong word, but he's pretty good.
He's pretty good at playing guitar.
Yeah, sure. I don't have high standards for that, so sure. So this tournament by far has been handled so much better than the women's tournament, but better is a relative term here. And my major complaint, because so far so good with the matches, is I think the obvious one. How do you have Jinder beat Kofi? How do you not do Woods versus Kofi in the semis? It's such a big miss, I think, for so many of us. But I'm going to throw it over to Mr. Big because you seem very invested in Woods' journey through this tournament.
I'm sorry, was that a Sex and the City reference?
No, maybe, sure, if you want to take it that way.
That's hilarious. Man. As you said, the matches have been good, but this has been handled piss poorly. Like Jinder going over Kofi, I have to imagine it's only because Crown Jewel's coming up and they want some Asian, they want the Asian pop. No disrespect to anybody. It definitely should have been Kofi versus Xavier. That would have been everything we needed with Xavier going over. This is the time to build new superstars. Xavier needs this. He's individual now, more so. It would have been better that way. I'm looking, it's Sammy versus Finn, correct?
Yes.
Damn, I kind of want Sammy to win the whole thing, but we know that's not going to happen. Finn can't take an L right now. Damn, I really don't know who's the winner of this.
All right. Well, Nick, what do you got?
I absolutely agree. It should have been Xavier and Kofi. It's absolutely criminal that they missed out on that. You could have had an emotional feel-good moment on Raw with Xavier winning that match. Could tease some kind of split up between the two. Probably not. But I think they do this weird thing every so often with Jinder Mahal where they want to pretend that they're going to give him a push. And it goes for like 2 weeks at the most. Outside of him winning the world title. But even then, he didn't feel like a main event guy. He felt like an experiment, and it was just everyone groaned their way through it. And I think that's been my big issue with Jinder Mahal is I don't think he's a bad wrestler. I don't think he's bad on the mic, but I don't think he's necessarily interesting. And he's just the type of person that I groan my way through. Anytime he's on TV, I just can't wait for him to be off TV. With that being said, Sammy and Finn has to be a great match. I want Finn Balor to win. I want them to do the same kind of thing with Shayna Baszler, where she's like the Queen of Spades. I want him to be like, oh, I was the prince, but now I'm the king. So I feel like same thing. You're gonna miss out on that if it's WWE and you want to like make some money. Do that, Finn Balor. That's your guy. Take it all, Finn Balor.
Very well put. The nicest possible way of putting it. So I'm going to throw it over. I'm going to save James for last, but so I'm going to throw it over to Rev. What do you think so far of the men's King of the Ring?
Looking at the bracket, I'm a little upset I missed Cesaro, Finn Balor. That sounds like an absolute banger. I'm probably going to have to go back and watch that.
Great match.
I have to agree. Ginger going over Kofi not only sucks because you're missing out on Kofi versus Xavier Woods in the semis. It just sucks because no one really likes Ginger that much. Even when he came back, it wasn't that big of a deal.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, so I think the only thing in my head, reasoning wise, is why maybe WWE did this was technically he is also a former, I think, WWE champion. So their power levels are kind of similar, at least in the eyes of their idiotic booking. So assuming Xavier beats Jinder, then he still gets a very credible win over somebody. I think Finn's going to beat Sammy. Actually, I know Finn's going to beat Sammy, to go back to what James hinted out earlier. So then I guess that leaves X versus Finn, and I think that not only is going to be a really good match, I genuinely don't know who wins. Finn right now is being pushed very, very hard, even after the nonsense at Extreme Rules. Like, everyone is really liking his work, and he's been going over almost always. So there's that on one side, and on the other side, you have this story where Xavier Woods has been pushing to be King of the Ring since I think he got to the main roster, maybe even earlier. So it's a really tough call for me. And despite the fact I very much don't want to watch Crown Jewel, I might have to tune in just to see what I believe is going to be that match.
Yeah, I think that's how we all feel about Crown Jewel. We don't want to watch it, but we are a little curious. So Timothy has been chomping at the bits to get at this. So I'm going to throw it to him now. And he's going to gasp, and then he's going to get into it.
All right, buckle up, everybody, because I have opinions.
Oh, boy.
Wow, shocker.
At least they're well-spoken, usually.
Yes, you're very well spoken, James. I will always give you that.
Mostly.
Oh, I thank you.
It's the mustache.
It is. I'm a distinguished gentleman.
Yeah.
This tour. So, again, big fan of the King of the Ring. I actually have to disagree with something a lot of you guys have said. I'm not happy that Kofi lost, but I am glad that we're not getting Xavier versus Kofi. I don't trust WWE to do that match without me losing that tag team. I just don't. They have never handled babyface versus babyface well, and there is no reason to think they would here. I don't need them to split. I can't imagine what either guy would do without the other at this point. And not that they're not capable. I just don't see it. And I want Xavier to go all the way just because of how much he's wanted this for years. Seriously, guys, Xavier Woods has been begging for the King of the Ring to return for years, and he is killing it so far, and he deserves it. So I don't need there to be extra drama other than Xavier Woods going for King of the Ring. That said, I said before it would be a spoiler. It's not, just because who knows, maybe things have changed, but I can't imagine how. But Sami Zayn cannot win, guys. Sami Zayn, he's not allowed in Saudi Arabia. He's not allowed. He is Syrian. And yes, there have been Syrians to go to Saudi Arabia in the last few years on a global level, but nobody wants this to happen. WWE has specifically said that he hasn't been invited. Sammy has said he hasn't been invited. And even if he was invited, he doesn't want to go. And WWE has claimed that they will never force any talent to go to Saudi Arabia that doesn't want to go. And I've seen that in the past to be true.
Yeah,
so,
Daniel Bryan refused to go.
Exactly. So if Sami Zayn isn't going to Saudi Arabia, Sami Zayn can't beat Finn Balor. If Finn Balor wins, his competition in the main event will most likely have to be a heel. And that means Jinder is most likely beating Xavier. And if we get Finn versus Jinder, that's not a safe bet for Finn, simply because Finn is so cool. He doesn't need to be king of the ring. He doesn't need an extra gimmick for people to care about him or for people to wonder what he's up to. Finn Balor is Finn Balor, and that's enough. Jinder Mahal without the king of the ring is just Jinder Mahal, and nobody gives a shit. And I'm sorry, I like Jinder. I was one of the few people who was happy for him to be WWE champion, and I agree with Nick, what he said before. It's not his fault, but he had really bad go away heat just because he was forced into a position people didn't think he was ready for. But he is a credible opponent. He's beaten Randy Orton. He beat Shinsuke Nakamura. He beat a lot of people while he was on top.
He won the US title at WrestleMania. Most people forget that.
He did.
I actually also like Jinder Mahal, just to put my 2 cents in.
I liked him in 3MB.
Oh God.
Jinder is a feel-good story in a lot of ways that Drew was.
Mm-hmm.
It's just we saw something in Drew that we didn't see in Jinder. Right. Now, that's not to say I want him to win this tournament, but if he does win this tournament, I'm not going to be mad about it. I will think it was very much a let's get somebody over in Saudi Arabia kind of thing. But that is what it is. I just hate the fact that there were certain talent that should have been better positioned here. And Xavier being one of them. Cesaro would have been great, but they booked him against Finn, who they don't want to lose. So there really were a lot of ways to win. And I think no matter what, we're sort of like, unless Xavier wins and maybe Finn, we're just going to end up with, oh, okay, he won King of the Ring. Good for him. I think that's the general feeling that we're going to feel at the end of this tournament.
Unless they give us Demon Balor in Saudi Arabia. That's the
only.
That's the.
Yeah, that might not fly.
Yeah. But
yeah,
I don't think that's gonna go well over there.
Well, you never know. Because if they're who knows?
I mean, they do love the Undertaker and Kane there,
right? Like they're not opposed to it. And I think if you already have a character called the Demon King, to not crown him King of the Ring feels I think I'm just focusing a little too much on like, oh, you already have this character who you can make it work. You could turn Finn Balor heel against Xavier Woods. That would make a little more sense. People like Xavier Woods. But I also as James talks, and this happens way too much, as James talks and explains things, I agree with him on the fly. I'm like, yeah, you know what? Actually, that makes a lot of sense. And you're probably right.
He does make good points sometimes. Reverend, you have something?
I think a big problem with WWE booking tournaments is they don't book them well, but it's because when they start booking them, they don't really plan around anything other than, okay, this guy's going to win. Because if you look at the list of guys who are here, there's a lot of guys here where you can legitimately see them winning. And I understand you need that in a tournament, but the tournament's also you kind of need it to help get guys over. And there's not really a lot of guys as I look at this where like they need to get over. Like if you go back to, let's say, AEW's initial tag team tournament for the titles, and you have a very young Private Party in there and they beat the Bucks, huge upset. That did a lot for their credibility. Now I understand this is a much much different circumstance in terms of, winning that tournament for the titles and winning King of the Ring. Obviously, I would imagine the titles are of much higher prestige, but it still lends a lot of credibility to Private Party. You could have gone with a younger person or an NXT call up, like maybe like Isaiah Swerve Scott or somebody like that, and have them pull off a big upset against, say, Rey Mysterio, and that would have been really cool and helps build a character. Instead, what I think WWE likes to do in these situations is they just book the biggest names they can, or at least they can think of, throw them all together and be like, all right, these are the finals and this guy's going and this guy and the rest of it, who gives a shit?
Yeah, I think that was beautifully put. I think there's a lot of guys, if they book this differently, that would benefit from simply just moving on to the second rounds. They don't even have to win. They don't have to make it to the finals, but just moving on. Like a guy like Ricochet winning one round in this tournament makes a big difference. But that's just not how they book that. But since I wanted to say this when after James kept talking about gender, do any of you guys know what brand Jinder Mahal is going to off the top of your head?
No.
There we go.
I want to say it's SmackDown, but
yeah, I do too, but I don't know why. I don't know why I think that.
Yeah, so him winning the tournament sounds great.
I think it's SmackDown because I think
is
it Raw?
It's Raw because they sent his the Indus Shear guy
Yeah.
to SmackDown
from his lackeys.
But okay. Yeah, so they split. So after Crown Jewel, his other guy is going to be on another show, which why?
The guy that they're moving over to is the guy that everyone says has a lot of promise and is one of the big prospects.
Was he the Bollywood actor? He is the Bollywood actor.
Yes, I believe so. But everyone also agrees he's good and he's got a future, but he's green. I don't know why they would send him off on his own right now. He definitely could have spent more time under Jinder. But anyway,
NXT.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, that's WWE, the story. So, yeah.
So sticking with Raw, just for a little bit more, I'm sorry, guys. I'm very, very sorry. I just want to quickly rant about the booking through the scope of the Women's Championship pictures. So apparently wins and losses do not matter in WWE. So why can't we have finishes to these matches? Becky versus Bianca at the pay-per-view ends in a DQ. Charlotte versus Bianca, DQ. The tag match from this past Raw, DQ. Kind of 2 DQs, but it never got started the first time. But still, 3 DQs in a month span in just one division and one story, essentially. So doesn't that imply that wins and losses actually do matter? Doesn't the fact that Becky hasn't been pinned in a singles match since 2018 imply that they matter, or submitted since early 2019 matter? Doesn't Roman not losing ever anymore flat out say that it matters? And I get that they only know how to do one finish or 2 finishes, and that's a roll-up finish or a distraction finish. But even that would have been better than everything we've had to deal with in the past couple of weeks with that division. Now, I'm no booker, T or otherwise, but if you don't want to beat either person in the match, don't book the match, right? Just don't have the match. You don't have to have that match. So you're just advertising the match for the sake of, hey, look at this big match. And then it doesn't matter. You know the match is going to end in DQ. Sasha's going to face Becky on SmackDown. One-on-one match. Becky's first singles match on TV since before she left. It's going to end in DQ. There's no way it has a finish. So what's the point? That was it. That was just my problem. That Becky and Bianca's matches have finishes. Do you guys have anything you want to add to that, or anything about Raw? Mr. Positive, do you care to balance me out or join in on the piling on?
I'll let Nick go. I'll let the Reverend go first, and then I'll jump in.
Oh, thank you. That was very polite. I think in WWE, you're right. Wins and losses do not matter in the context of record. You're right. Like they do in AEW, obviously. What matters in WWE is perception of wins and losses. So, AKA making people look strong, you know, as we all used to hear about Roman. So it's important to them to have people perceive that people are winning. So then when there's a DQ, no one takes a win, no one takes a loss, and therefore both people are still perceived to either be winning or look strong or both. So that's how they use the DQ. They use it as a tool to keep people looking good, to keep the perception up that they are winning, despite the fact they're not, because they don't want people to lose, because then you end up with Dana Brooke.
See, I agree with that logic, but they don't apply it because they do the DQs all the time and no one comes out looking better.
When have they ever applied logic? But that's their thinking. Doesn't work.
2012, maybe.
I'm with you. You're not defending them. You're explaining how their mindset. You're getting into their heads and how they.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think it's dumb. I think it's dumb because, as I continually say, I don't watch any of this shit because it's terrible now.
Absolutely.
When you're right, sir.
Yeah. So, James, you care to bounce that out or join me in the.
It's a little bit of both. It's a little bit of both because
join the
here's
dark
the
side.
deal.
We have cookies.
They do care about wins and losses, but they only care about those wins and losses for the very tip top of the roster. They are going to make sure, like you said, Roman is protected. They're going to make sure, like you said, Becky is protected because those people are brands within themselves. There are some of the few left that are brands within themselves. On the mid card, they do not care because they will have a guy go 50-50 for months and then all of a sudden win the US title or all of a sudden win the Intercontinental title.
Or all of a sudden wonder why they're not over.
Exactly. So this has just been consistent for them for years. They do care about wins and losses for the people they care about. Like, look right now at Damian Priest. They clearly care about him. When was the last time Priest took an L? Even in a tag match? I don't know. And that's great. That's great. I'm not complaining about that. Damian Priest is a guy they want to push. They're pushing him well. But then you take it to other guys who were mid-card champions. Look at Apollo Crews. Even when he was champion, United States champion, he was losing. And then since he's dropped the title, I think he challenged for it like 7 times since then, and he's lost. That number might be a little off, but I don't think that's even hyperbole. I think he's challenged around that number of times, but he's Apollo Crews, so who cares? It's the mid-card. We could just plug anybody into this slot and see if it fits.
Another example, look at Sami Zayn.
Exactly.
Well,
Exactly.
Sami Zayn, I think, is actually one of the few times where their formula works because Sami Zayn is so good and they clearly love him.
Sammy knows how to work the formula. He is so good, and I think people forget this. He is so good that he can take a situation like that and he knows how to make it work in his favor.
And this is not even that he's so good as a wrestler. He is so good as a character that he makes us
right. But he is so good as a wrestler too. We won't deny that.
But it's irrelevant to the current Sami Zayn character.
Exactly.
He's so strong as a character, but not everyone's Sami Zayn. Most people aren't Sami Zayn, and barely anyone gets the time that Sami Zayn does. Sami Zayn gets a lot of TV time for a guy who never wins matches. Like
that's true.
Because again, like you said, the character works.
Hey, he beat Dominic Mysterio a couple of times.
Look at his wrestling counterpart, not his character counterpart, but his wrestling counterpart, who I would say is in WWE Cesaro. Cesaro is just as great a wrestler as Sami Zayn. They have different strengths in the ring, but just as good, same background. Sammy has a better handle on his character. So Sammy has been able to work the formula in a way that Cesaro hasn't been able to. Cesaro's support never came within the company. It comes from the fans. And it has always come from the fans.
Wonder how much of that has to do with the fact that Cesaro, and sorry to cut you off, doesn't perfectly speak English. Like it's very good, but he has the accent. And there's people within that company who do not like the accent.
I mean, he speaks it perfectly, but yeah, the accent is just so off-putting to people in WWE for some reason.
Let's not
because
say people.
Cesaro-
We know who it is.
It's a couple people. Let's say.
I think I absolutely understand where you're going for, because he can't take that and make it feel like he's natural. Like what they want is they want someone with an accent, but also who feels like they're speaking, fluently in English. So you look at the best way I can describe that is look at someone like Eddie Guerrero, who definitely had an accent, but also when like you heard him talk, he can cut a good promo, a fucking great promo in English. And I'm not saying, and I just mean that more so in the sense that like you can tell Cesaro struggles a little bit with that. Even when you look back at like the early Cesaro promos when he was like, I can speak 12 different languages. Look how great I am. I'm Antonio Cesaro. It always felt very forced. It always felt like you got to work on that a little bit. And for years, I think their stigma is like, you're amazing in the ring. You can be a top star, but you got to work on that a little bit. And it's been 9 years since he's been on the main roster.
Oh God, yeah.
Put it this way: when he won the Andre the Giant Battle Royal Memorial, that was WrestleMania 30, and now we just had WrestleMania 37.
Shit.
Yeah.
That is yeah.
But James, you would agree though, to your earlier point, they do use the DQ as a tool to like keep people looking strong. It's even the top people.
I can understand it. I could say, well, I understand your logic, but then in the same hands, and I know you're not defending them. We've already agreed on that, but we could also say this is a bad idea. This is a bad tool. It doesn't work.
It's no longer a tool. It's a crutch. And
yes.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect way to put it.
Chad, you got anything to add before I move on?
I side with you guys. You're all right. I'm tired.
There we go. Well, hey, segues are weird. We haven't talked about Dynamite yet. That's weird for us. We always do that. But that's because for some reason, Dynamite doesn't exist yet. It's airing on Saturday because of a Rangers game, the hockey team, not the baseball team. This isn't the first time Dynamite has changed days because of other less determined sports, and usually the ratings suffer as a result. And it'll probably happen this time. It doesn't mean the quality of the show suffers. The quality always holds up. But so far, all I've seen announced is Daniel Bryan versus Mr. Fish, which should be fun. The Lucha Bros versus a masked tag team for the AAA tag team titles. I wonder who at least one of those people might be. And the only other thing I've seen is Dante Martin is actually, he's going to die. And Malachi Black is just going to murder him on TV, which I guess is why it's on the weekend, so they can air edgier stuff. I've seen reports that there will be a bracket revealed for a championship contenders tournament, but I don't know how that's going to work with Hangman winning the Battle Royal. But on
probably the women.
No, I think they said it was a world title bracket.
Yeah.
It is.
Oh, is it? Oh,
It is.
apologies.
So that's I don't like the sound of that, but
I think the difference is Hangman can have his match whenever he wants.
Exactly.
Yeah, but why wouldn't you do it on the pay-per-view?
So
Well, no, you could.
There is precedent. There is precedent for this within AEW and Dynamite. When Brian Cage won his I think he had the ladder match.
Yeah, he won the ladder match.
I don't believe he challenged Moxley at the pay-per-view. I think he challenged him on TV, and that was sort of in between other feuds for Moxley. So I understand what you're saying here with Hangman, but I think truthfully we're gonna see this is how they have Brian challenge Kenny for the title again without farming wins yet.
That's a great shout. I hope they don't do it because I don't want that match to be for the title. I want it like in my head, and this is on me for already like thinking of it like this. I thought Hangman won at the pay-per-view, and then Brian and Kenny can continue their feud without the title, and it's less messy. We can have a finish. But the only other things I've seen announced are CM Punk versus natural-born jobber Matt Sydal. And for some reason, there will be a buy-in show to Rampage as a kind of a way to counteract SmackDown. James, yes, you have an interruption for me?
I apologize. It's just we need to talk about how Tony Khan, the real life person, has seemingly become his Impact Wrestling character and just does not give a fuck.
It's so
what's funny is I had in my notes that this was going to make James uneasy, and you literally didn't even let me get to that. You were so like ready to
I am popping tums like crazy because of how TK is acting. I am not ready. I want everyone else to get their stuff in. I don't know who pissed in his potato salad, but Vince. TK, but he is like, he's mad, man. He straight up said in a radio interview, Raw sucked last night. Like, he just said it.
I mean, he's not wrong, but damn.
He's not, but
did he lie?
Chad, no, he did not. But he's usually very well spoken and very, very level headed. And I think he really took it personally that SmackDown on FS1 is going to go that extra half hour to compete with Rampage. And I think him doing this buy-in is just a giant middle finger to say, you want to go against us? We're going to go against you. Let's do it.
And it definitely is. And I forgot who said it. I was on some other channel with probably more viewers, but less heart than us, said that they can inflate how good the buy-in does because it's YouTube and the views will accumulate over time. So literally the next day they can be like, hey, 1 million people have watched this and SmackDown's going to be on FS1. So they're also going to take a hit in the ratings. So it's an interesting move. I'm not sure I would have done it. It is ballsy. And there's another match on the show. I literally forgot it. James will fill you in when he talks again. But the big match on the show that will also make James uneasy is Bryan Danielson versus, I don't know, maybe you guys know, Suzuki. And that is going to be insane. There is so much to unpack here between both shows moving, or one show moving channels, another show moving time slots, a buy-in show in response to an extra half hour of SmackDown. Nick, how do you even begin to unravel all this? I'm going to put that one on you.
Can I just say, so right off the bat, yes, someone pissed off Tony Khan. Someone, and we know who it was. We don't have to play dumb. We know who it was. Tony Khan's mad. But the fact that Tony Khan's response is, I'm going to give you guys Bryan Danielson and Suzuki on free TV. Not even free TV, on YouTube. A madman, an absolute madman. But I love it. I love it so much. I love Tony Khan's passion for wrestling. I love what he's doing. I love just this, like, AEW is a show for wrestling fans. Anyone who loves watching wrestling, and I mean like the wrestling aspect of it, because I've kind of gotten to the point where I'm like, okay, well, WWE and AEW are just, they're going to be two separate entities offering two completely different products that are shrouded to look like the same thing. I don't even know. There's so much going on. There's so much happening. And I think I'm just as like dumbfounded and flabbergasted as I'm sure most other people are. But I'm here for it. I'm here for the chaos. I love living in this wrestling chaos. Anyone who's at these shows is in for a night of that they're never going to forget. And I love that this is the wrestling world that we're living in right now. We can complain about it all we want on the internet. We can complain about whatever, but like we are getting some great stuff in because of the chaos. And I'm here for the chaos because it gave us Danielson and Suzuki on YouTube.
Long live the chaos.
Long live the chaos.
From Nick to Nick, Reverend, what do you got?
Well, I just wanted to hop in and get the card straight for this weekend for Dynamite since I have it in front of me. So the buy-in, like you said, is going to include Bryan Danielson against Minoru Suzuki, which is just insane that it's on YouTube. It's also going to include Bobby Fish and Lee Moriarty. And then I think the reason that the majority of the Dynamite matches have not been announced is because Rampage is live tomorrow night. And then I imagine they're going to do Rampage live and then tape Dynamite. And then now, unless James is telling me no.
Both live.
Oh, they're both live?
They're...
Okay. Well, even still, then they're probably not announcing everything for Dynamite because they're probably going to announce a bunch of it on Rampage like they usually do when Dynamite's first, and then they announce everything for Rampage during Dynamite. The rest of the card for Rampage, CM Punk against Matt Sydal, like you said, and then you have, the Inner Circle with the Jericho, Sammy Guevara, and Jake Hager against Men of the Year, Scorpio Sky, and All Ego Ethan Page, and Junior Dos Santos with Jorge Masvidal at ringside, and Dan Lambert. And then you're also going to get Ruby Soho and the Bunny. So that's a pretty good card. And you have Ryan Suzuki on fucking YouTube.
That's all on Rampage?
That's
like
all
matches,
Rampage.
right? On Rampage?
Yeah. Rampage is going to be good. So
some of it's the buy-in, some of it's actually Rampage.
Those first two matches I mentioned were officially buy-in matches, and the rest are allegedly on Rampage. I am very curious to see what happens with SmackDown's numbers on Friday. I've gotten a bit of an argument with our good friend Eric in our group chat about this.
Noted, esteemed, beloved indie film director Eric Gisante.
Boo, Eric. Boo.
So, Fox Sports 1 is not that difficult of a channel to get, as Eric thinks. It's not. If you have ESPN, you almost probably have Fox Sports 1 somewhere.
Facts.
So it's as long as you have cable, you probably have Fox Sports. The problem is finding it. I know where it is because I watch way too many sports. I had to find it for the playoffs, the MLB playoffs the other week. I need to find it for football. I always need to find it. So I know exactly where it is on my TV. But when I go and to somebody with Cablevision, I have no idea where the hell it is. I got to scroll through pages of guide just to find it. So finding it is going to be difficult. And also, too, you're going from broadcast television on Fox, I almost said Fox 5, but for those of you who aren't local, on Fox, to a cable network, you're clearly just losing viewers just due to the fact that not everybody has cable. So that's definitely going to drop. But now you're competing against Rampage, which is also on a cable TV channel. So that's going to be interesting, too. It's the numbers part of this intrigues me. Obviously, I think the matches on Rampage and the buy-in are going to be way better. Clearly, they have Danielson against Suzuki, so anything that SmackDown puts up is probably going to lose. But there's some good matches on SmackDown, too. I forget what it is, but there's a pretty big women's match on that card, which is why they're getting the half hour of that, and they can do whatever the hell they want on Fox Sports 1. So this is going to be a fun night. It's very reminiscent of some Monday Night Wars shit, and the hype is real.
Yeah, there's a lot of hype. Who knows what to expect? Chad, what do you expect from all this?
First of all, I want to go on record saying Dynamite being on Saturday, I do not like. I'm going through withdrawals. This is not for me. However, I will be there Saturday night watching Dynamite. Number 2, Tony Tone. He absolutely, I must congratulate and appreciate that he chose violence. Absolute violence. He woke up and chose violence, and I'm kind of cool with that shit. As Nick said, it's the chaos is dope. It's super dope. I'm looking forward to the whole Monday Night War thing that's going on again. It's good. I like it.
Yeah, I like it too. I think I'm not super hopeful that AEW is gonna win this little mini battle as part of the war, but the fact that they're standing their ground and putting up the fight that they're putting up, I love to see it. I think it's great. James looks like he's been prepping like a big rant.
James got a bombshell.
He's got a soliloquy
So
prepared.
I'm gonna let him unswirl his tightly wound mustache and get at it.
What do you got, Tool Man? Drop it on us.
So this is not a battle to see who wins. This is a battle to see who's not going to lose. This is a battle for the bottom. This is 100% a battle for the bottom. FS1, Reverend is right. It's not hard to get to FS1, but typically in the past, whenever they did do shows on FS1, they didn't do well. Rampage, it's hard to say, but it's the truth. Their numbers, other than their CM Punk episode, have not been great. They just haven't. They're great for their time slot. They're great for a 10 o'clock Friday night death slot that they have, but they are not great numbers. The buy-in being on YouTube isn't going to be something that they can just directly say, our viewers are going to be taking away from WWE's viewers. I can very easily watch SmackDown on my TV and watch Rampage on my computer. So I don't know who's going to have a good night. I think both of them are honestly going to have somewhat of a bad night. It's just a matter of who's going to have less of a bad night. I think it's been said Bryan versus Suzuki is something that I know Suzuki said it. He was not expecting this match to happen. There wasn't a lot of planning for this match. He got a call very recently and they asked him to come have this match. And he was like, yeah, let's do it. Wow. I'm thrilled it's happening. It shows that they were like, we got to do something. We got to do something now because we were pissed off. I know I mentioned Tony Khan sort of channeling his Impact character. If you guys haven't watched Tony Khan's Impact segments, I highly recommend it. The man can cut a heel promo. He can be he can be an angry guy. And I know that's his character, and I'm sure he's playing it up on social media too. But the fact that he's going to these lengths, it says a lot. Rampage was already going to be a pretty decent card. They're doing Bryan versus Suzuki and Bobby Fish versus Lee Moriarty because they have that match the next night on Dynamite. I'm sure they don't want Bobby Fish losing 2 matches in a row. And I'm sure that they want both guys to look good the next night. And the fact that those 2 matches are the only matches on the buy-in advertised, I think those matches are going to be long. I think both those matches are going to go for a while, and we're going to see a clinic in both of them. Dynamite being on Saturday, Chad, I'm with you. I don't know what to do on my Wednesday right now, which is, I don't know what to do with my hands. But
apparently it's watch the Rangers get killed.
I've been a New Yorker my whole life, Reverend. They always get killed.
94 says hello.
When I was 2, you're right. So I think Rampage is going to be a decent to good card. I know SmackDown is hyping up Lesnar coming back, which, that's great in itself, but I'm actually surprised they're wasting Lesnar on FS1. And Tony Khan actually said it best. He wants everyone to watch whatever wrestling they want to watch. I think he did WYW, Watch Your Wrestling. I think that's what he called it. And I don't want to see one company go over the other. I want both companies to do well. It's why whenever there's a clash in terms of what to watch, I'm not thrilled about it because I don't want one company to do poorly. I'm obviously going to be rooting for AEW in this situation because they were sort of called out in this situation. They had pressure applied to them, and right or wrong, they pushed back. And we're going to be getting some good wrestling because of that. So let's see what happens. I am more nervous about how low the numbers are going to be for everybody. I don't care who wins. I just want everyone to have a good night. And I think, honestly, they've created enough hype for that to happen.
I thought Tony Khan made a really good point in a couple of his interviews where he said, for me, it's not really about the numbers. He's like, the numbers are the numbers. So there's nothing I can do to control that. What I am going to tell you is we're going to put on a better show. our wrestling's going to be better. Our promos are going to be better. Our show is going to be better than theirs. Period. End of story. And if he can pull that off, which I think he does every week, but if he pulls that off and the public agrees with him, then he's the winner. You know, you said this isn't the battle for not a loser. I think if he does that, then he wins this bout.
Wow, enticing stuff, guys. Well, speaking of wrestling that no one really watches, we have a new NXT North American champion, Carmelo Hayes. He beat a guy by the name of Swerve. I'm not really the guy to speak about this, so I'm going to turn it over to one of my esteemed colleagues, starting with the most relevant reverend that ever was revered, Rev.
You literally threw to the worst person because I didn't see this.
I know, I figured we'd get out of the way first. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. But I can explain for the most part what happened. So like you said, Carmelo Hayes won the North American title off of Isaiah Swerve Scott. Now, Hayes previously had won an NXT tournament for like the best up-and-comer, and by winning the tournament, he was afforded a title opportunity. Apparently, he took that to mean a title opportunity anytime, anywhere, a la the Money in the Bank contract. So after Swerve had won a match against Phantasmo, or whatever the heck it is, Santos, there we go. I knew remember the group name, but not the guy.
Santos Escobar.
Yeah, Santos Escobar. Thank you. So much I watched the show. After Swerve won a match against him, Hayes cashed in the contract and was able to win the North American title. I'm sure somebody will go more into detail about that match itself, but this presents a new interesting opportunity where the winner of this tournament can now cash in their contract anytime, anywhere. So this is adding a whole new dynamic to this thing. I think it's cool. I think the Money in the Bank cash-ins are some of the most exciting moments that have ever happened in WWE. Two of my favorites being, off the top of my head, Seth Rollins, strictly because Roman and Brock didn't win. Yep. But it was also really cool. And Dolph Ziggler, despite the fact it led nowhere, that's still one of the best pops I've ever heard. And it was awesome.
Absolutely.
So
great moments.
I think this affords the opportunity for some more really exciting moments in NXT, especially now that this is a mechanic they have. You do this at a takeover, shit's going to go off. So, especially if they start touring again and doing big takeovers like in Brooklyn or wherever. So, I'm excited to see where this leads, despite the fact I'm probably not going to watch NXT.
Well put. You just got me way more excited for NXT than WWE has in the past 8 months, maybe. But to, I guess, throw it over to someone who actually watches NXT, I'm going to throw it to Nick at Night, Nick Maniotis. What do you got?
So it is absolutely an interesting concept. I always wondered if NXT would ever have their like Money in the Bank equivalent. I think it's such a unique concept for them that why wouldn't you want that, especially when they were kind of treating NXT as a third brand for a long time, as opposed to developmental, even though they didn't really want to admit that. I like Carmelo Hayes, and I think of all of the people in that breakout tournament, he was probably the most promising. Maybe outside of, well, no, I don't even want to say maybe outside of Duke Hudson, but I do like Duke Hudson. I think it's very good. I have no problems with it. I agree. They never really made the stipulation that it was at any time. And I think this was not something that they had necessarily had in the plans. But like everyone knows, they're trying to make NXT feel a little bit more like Raw and SmackDown. So this absolutely feels like one of those kind of Vince McMahon decisions where he said, "Oh, well, we need a hot segment. We need, to get the title off of Isaiah, and we can do this. And there's nothing saying that we can't do it. They didn't specify that it was that it can't be done. When you think back to even the first tournament when ACH won, they never specifically said he couldn't challenge at any time. He just happened to challenge Adam Cole in a regular match.
All right.
I mean, I don't really have much to say that I think most people kind of feel about it. It was a very smart booking decision. I like Carmelo Hayes. I'm very excited to see where he goes with the title. And I'm excited to see Hit Row on SmackDown.
All right, there we go. Way to explain the heel logic there. Makes sense. Way to find the loophole in the system, Carmelo Hayes. I was going to throw to James, but I'm going to out him right now. He's Eden, so I'm going to throw to Chad instead. Did you see this, Chad?
Yeah, I saw it live. I'll keep this short and sweet. NXT was very refreshing for me on Tuesday. I'm an NXT fan, and I think this was just another notch on the belt that made it the superior brand for me. Carmelo Hayes can go. The title change was smart. We knew Swerve was going to SmackDown. It made sense. It was calculated. It was refreshing. It was exciting. I can't wait to see what he does with the NA title. He said on Twitter that he's going to make it seem like it's the main title, so that's going to be dope. I like Duke Hudson. I'm cool with Joe Gacy. NXT is looking pretty strong lately.
So would you say this was the best NXT since the rebranding a few weeks ago?
Just off the strength of the Carmelo Hayes and how much I like him, yeah, I'll give it that. Definitely.
Okay. Well, I think we have successfully bought someone enough time to finish their snack. I assume you watched this because I assume you watched every wrestling show. What did you think?
I want it on the record, everybody. I had like 2 Oreos. That's all. 2 Oreos and some water. But I have long been a supporter of Carmelo Hayes. I watched him on the Indies before he made it to NXT, and even when he was performing in much smaller arenas and much smaller crowds, it was apparent that this guy had a handle on who he was. He was obviously still somewhat green. I mean, he's in NXT for a reason, but it was apparent that it was a matter of when, not if. So I'm happy for him that it's when. The when is now and not much later. I think his win, his North American title win, as great as it is for him, it's a win for NXT 2.0 right now. Look, we've all shared our doubts, our concerns about what this rebrand was going to be. We all liked what NXT was before. It was definitely a case of, if it ain't broke, why are you trying to fix it? Moving past it, it is what it is. We are where we are. NXT 2.0 is sort of going back to what it was in its early days, which is, let's get young, new people over. We were so accustomed to what NXT was, which was what hot indie talent is going to come in that we could put the title on, when it was supposed to be a developmental. Everybody that Chad mentioned are young, undeveloped guys who need more refining. Carmelo might be a guy who's a little more refined than some of like the newer guys because he did work the indies, but he's still young, he's still new, and he's still fresh. So NXT 2.0 accomplished what they wanted to here, where they got a new person who they get to mold over. People are excited that he cashed in and he won a championship, and it's something fresh, it's something different. And that's what they're going for. Yes, there is always going to be this fear about who's steering the ship. There's going to be this fear. Is it too much like Raw? Is it too much like SmackDown? Understandable. But right now they have a set of goals, and they're actually meeting those goals. They're hitting their targets. And it just so happens that right now, that coincides with what we want to see. I think we're so used to, with WWE, specifically the main roster, having their own goals and intentions that they're so dead set on making happen, no matter what we think of it. Roman Reigns, nobody wanted Roman Reigns for however many years, but they still did it. They still pushed it. But now they're doing it with NXT, and it's working. It is working. It's an adjustment, but it's working.
I think to your point too, sorry, Danny, I think to your point that the fact that the winner of the up-and-comer tournament is the guy who gets to cash in lends to the fact that they're going to end up putting over young, new, fresh, sometimes green, but guys, they want to get over. So it goes exactly into what your point was, where they're going to get these younger guys over as they want to do with this new NXT.
I also think that it was a perfect booking decision to have him take the North American title. Other than the fact that they needed to take it off Swerve because he's going to the main roster, you're not having a young kid go for the main title and either be exposed or be in a position he's not meant to be in. And the tag team division, which he could have used this for as well, it's bloated, not bloated, but there's a healthy roster there. There's a healthy division there. So for him to go for the mid-card title, I think win every way they played it.
Wow, so well put and well spoken, James.
Hey,
Good
look,
job.
we like the WWE thing.
Way to go. Way to go, man. Way to be professional and sound like you know what you're talking about. I know it sounds sarcastic, but I'm going to move on. Moving on to something more inspirational, let's say. The formerly iconic duo is set to debut for Impact Wrestling. And I think I have to start with Jambalaya on this one, even though he just spoke a lot, because he is Mr. Impact. Many people call him that, not me, not us, but other people call him that. So we're going to let him go right back into talking. I hope you rested your voice in that 10-second span.
That water I had before really helped. Impact has the best women's division in wrestling, period. It's better than WWE's, or at the very least, if you want to say they're comparable, it's better booked than WWE's. It's a healthier roster than AEW's. It is the best booked women's division in wrestling. They have incredible talent, even after losing a lot of talent. In I think a calendar year, or at least a 12-month period, they lost Tessa Blanchard, currently Frankie Monet. They lost so much talent.
Didn't the bunny get killed off?
I think that was a while before, but
okay.
they did lose so many women, either to WWE or to AEW. And instead of just crashing and burning, they brought in talent. Mickie James from NWA, Chelsea Green, Deonna Purrazzo might be the best booked women's champion in wrestling right now. And she, like, whether or not you think she's in the wrong talent pool, she feels dominant. Whether or not you like her or not, she's kicking ass, and you cannot deny what she's bringing to the table. The Inspiration, FKA, the Iconics, they fit in Impact. They are very good workers, but they're known for their character work. Impact is a place where you can really shine with your character work. And the big thing is, Impact has one thing that AEW doesn't have. They have a women's tag team division.
Boom.
And that's not even, no sour grapes here. I am not ripping on AEW, but the fact of the matter is they have one, AEW doesn't. The Iconics, the Inspiration, both of them can succeed on their own in a singles capacity. And AEW does allow for tag teams to shine as single stars. We've highlighted that before. But at the end of the day, I'm sure they wanted to be a tag team, and Impact is going to give them that opportunity. If AEW doesn't have plans for a tag belt, Impact was the best place for them to go. I cannot wait for their debut. They're going to kill it. And I want that. I don't even, if they want to on the spot challenge for those tag team titles and take them, fuck it, do it. Do it. Give them what they deserve. Have them carry that division, build other women's tag teams there. Nobody is going to suffer because of this. everyone is going to eat because of what they're going to bring to the table.
Once again, as always, well put, James. I pretty much agree with everything you said. And this is like a major nitpick, I wouldn't just say that I wouldn't say they're good workers. I would say they're vastly improved workers to the point where it deserves praise. Like they've come a long way in a short time. So they're not just like naturally good. You've seen them improve, and I think that's awesome. Whereas they've always been naturally good characters, but in terms of wrestling, we've actually seen their improvement. But I feel like we have someone who we've recently converted into a big women's wrestling fan, and that is Chad. What are you excited? How do you feel about the inspiration coming in?
I have always been a huge women's wrestling fan. Mickie James is one of my favorite wrestlers, period. Not even just of women, just period. But I've been with the Iconics are the inspiration since NXT. I absolutely love them. I was one of the people who said, what the fuck is WWE smoking when they stopped booking them correctly? And then I also said, what the fuck is WWE smoking when they let them go? I was disgusted. Everybody needs to watch Impact now. It's simple as that. If you don't watch Impact, start, please. I'm super excited. I'm beyond hyped. I can't wait. This is the pipe bomb that I've been looking for.
It's funny you said that because I think this is the thing that's most likely to get me to watch Impact is the inspiration showing up as weird as that might sound to some people, not to any of us here, but like I'm gonna move on to the Reverend before we get to Nick. But Reverend, I assume you're just as excited as the rest of us for this.
Yeah, I mean, I have liked the Iconics since before they were the Iconics. I liked back when she was still Billie Kay. I think it was right after she had her SmackDown appearance, and she went back to NXT, and her character was, "Hey, I was on SmackDown. I'm better than you." That's when I first took notice of Billie, and then she started hanging out with Peyton Royce, and James is either frozen or still doing the Iconics pose. But I've liked them since then. I think it's Cassie and Jessica, their real names. I think they are two of the funniest people in wrestling, and they play off each other perfectly. I still yell, "Hey, Kayla," at people. But I think James took a lot of what I said, so I'm going to focus on a different angle for a second, which is AEW, because I think a lot of people wanted them to go to AEW because the women's division needs help. They need names, right? They need stars. They need established people to help lift the division. And I think there's a pretty good chance that they would have went there had that new title been women's tag team titles. But obviously it became the TBS title, and the Knockouts division over at Impact affords them the opportunity to not only stick together as a tag team, not that they couldn't still be together on AEW, but to win tag team titles together. And I think that is what drew them over there, because to me, it seems that's what they want to do. They want to keep winning tag team titles together, especially after WWE made the stupid ass decision of breaking them up on a moment's notice for no fucking reason. And then Peyton just like randomly turned on Billie for, again, seemingly no reason. I don't want to get into that because it'll just drive me up the wall. But this seems like it's going to be really good for them. Like James said, the Impact women's division is stacked. They have a lot of people they can go after. They have a lot of good matchups there, and they have the tag titles. I'm excited for them, and I cannot wait to see the promos they're going to cut there, because I need that back in my life, and I need them. Hopefully, at some point, for whatever reason, they run into Kenta, and all shit breaks loose.
The promos are going to be great. Just two notes before I throw it over to Nick. I agree about how funny they are, but they are like naturally funny, not like wrestling funny. Like they're just like funny people in general. Like no matter what they were doing, I think I would laugh at them and be entertained.
Their best things were the unscripted backstage stuff with Kayla or Kathy Kelly. It was that stuff. Or again, when they were fucking with Kenta and Johnny Gargano. Like that was always their funniest stuff. Not their promos were funny, like on TV and stuff, But their funniest stuff was the backstage unscripted things. That stuff was untouchable.
Yeah, and the only other thing I wanted to touch on was the good point you made about maybe if they had tag titles, they would go there. Impact is the right place for them given the circumstances, but Impact is like, one door away from AEW, so it's not like it's completely out of the possibilities. But finally, we're going to throw it over to Nick. How excited are you for the inspiration?
So I'm very excited, and I'm actually very happy that they went to Impact and not AEW. I agree, AEW does need a significant boost in its women's division. I think Ruby Soho was a good addition. I think Thunder Rosa was a great addition. But with that being said, obviously with Impact doing the women's tag titles, again, it seemed like the right choice, especially with Impact losing Fire and Flava, who admittedly were probably their best tag team for a while. Now, I don't know if this is something that we want to talk about, but Impact also just announced the Inspiration's first opponents for Bound for Glory.
Oh.
And it's actually going to be Rosemary and Havoc.
Fuck.
Love that. Very different, but that's awesome.
Yeah. And just that is, to me, just so like, you guys really encompassed everything that I felt. I think Impact is a show to watch, especially considering where it was, 10 years ago. Impact has really turned itself around. It's great wrestling, great characters, great TV. I think more people should be paying attention. They're offering something that we as fans want to see out of WWE. It's an Impact. Go watch Impact.
I'm going to say something that's going to say a little crazy. I think Impact is doing WWE better than WWE right now.
I agree. Or specifically what WWE is trying to be.
I exactly. AEW isn't trying to be another WWE. They're trying to be AEW. They're trying to be their own thing. Impact has for years felt like WWE light, but now they just get it. They're doing the entertainment aspect of wrestling beautifully. And please, people, I've been saying this since episode 1 of the pod. What Nick said, watch Impact. It's great.
I mean, you want to talk about building new stars? Look at Josh Alexander.
Oh my God.
A tag team wrestler 6 months ago. No one would have thought he would have been fighting for the world title. He would have done option C. Ace Austin is a gem. Criminally underrated in my eyes.
They took the fourth man of, was it the Wyatt family?
Sawyer
Fulton.
Fulton. Yeah.
They took an original member. Yeah, for anyone who didn't know, there was
another
Wyatt
it wasn't
family.
the Wyatt family. It was Sanity.
Was it Sanity?
Yeah, it was Sanity.
Sanity.
He was in Sanity for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Oh, was he the one who got hurt and then they replaced really quick?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I remember him.
They took a guy who WWE literally never gave a chance to, and they made him feel like a good big man in wrestling.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's a win.
All right, then.
Watch Impact.
It's $1 a month. It's $1 a month, guys.
If there is any way to end this podcast, it should be with Watch Impact.
The name of the segment on the YouTube clips. Watch Impact.
That would be one way to end it, but we are going to end it in a more fun way. We actually asked our 11 huge, widespread audience to submit questions to us, and we are going to answer those questions live on air. So we have a few lined up, and we're going to get into it right now. The first question I have lined up here is from chillbro_swaggins69. Rolls off the tongue. And their question is, one live wrestling event in history you can attend, what would it be and why? I want to start with Chad on this one.
No problem. Damn. I hate that I'm going to say this because I've seen this pay-per-view so many times that I never have to see it again. But if I could have attended any pay-per-view, it's SummerSlam 2001. We got Rocky, we got Booker T, we got Stone Cold, we got Jericho. Our producer David made me watch this pay-per-view every other night when we lived together, and that is probably top 5 pay-per-views of all time for me.
First ever pay-per-view I ever watched. Chad.
Really?
First one.
We're connected.
Yep.
It's a bond.
Well, in that case, we might as well move on to James then. What's your answer, James?
Mine's tougher because I've been to so many events. I've been to like every WrestleMania since 24, except for this last one. And I think there's really only one answer here. And God, I would have given anything to be at WrestleMania 17. To this day, I think the most perfect wrestling card ever, no matter what came after. The matches on that card were incredible. The entertainment was incredible. And the stars back then were undoubtedly stars.
Fair, good shot. I feel like that's a lot of people in general, not just here. It's a lot of people's go-to one. So great show. Can't complain about that answer. Nick, what do you got? What would be your show?
This is going to be an interesting answer, but Takeover Brooklyn 3.
Okay.
Which sounds like oh well, why didn't you go to that? It was the one year that I just decided to not do the SummerSlam weekend. I think I went to like Raw for my birthday, but that was it. The card, it was Gargano and Almas, which was the 5-star match. It was Black and Kenta, which was great. It was AOP versus Sanity, which was great. It was Asuka versus Ember Moon, which was great. And it was Bobby Roode versus Drew McIntyre, which was fine. But Adam Cole debuted, and that was great. And I think Code Orange played, and I think they played Alistair out to the ring, and like kicked myself I'm still kicking myself, and it's been 4 years.
Oof. Hey,
something like that.
I don't blame you. That was a good show.
I'm going to turn heel on you there for a second, Nick. I was actually at that show.
Oh shit.
I know most people were at that show. I was like, nah, you know what? I went to Brooklyn. I went to take over Brooklyn 2 the year before, and I didn't think it was a great show. I thought it was good, but I was like, that was a little weak. But no, wish I went to 3. That's my answer.
And at that point, we were going to get one like every year. So it's like, yeah, you miss one. There's
right. I'll go to the next one. And
so that's fine. Rev, what's your answer to this question?
I've been thinking about this for this entire time and a bit longer. Like in terms of an entire pay-per-view, I don't know. WrestleMania 30 came into my head with Daniel Bryan and everything. TakeOver Brooklyn 1 came into my head. That seems like it would have been fun. The number one thing I would have killed to see live is Rock Hogan WrestleMania X8. I watched that match back all of the time, and there's nothing like that match ever, especially crowd-wise. I would have loved to have been there. I just even now I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. So that's the answer for me. Like, I know everyone's doing pay-per-views. I want to be at Rock Hogan and X8, and then I'll leave before Jericho and Triple H starts.
It was a fine match. Just
okay.
Nobody cared.
It was in Toronto. There's strip clubs down the street. I could have found something much better to do.
Yeah, way to throw shade at the main event. A way to get that jab in. I appreciate that. Just real quick, my answer would actually be WrestleMania 30. There's stuff I wanted to see as a kid, but like I was a Kane fan as a kid, so there's not a lot of great pay-per-views for me to have gone to. So WrestleMania 30 would have been you had the Daniel Bryan moment. I think Cesaro winning the Battle Royal is an underrated moment that was at the time amazing. And then the streak ending, that's history. Being there for that, pretty big deal. And that was maybe one of Triple H's like top 3 matches like ever. Like that was amazing. Like versus Daniel Bryan, and that intro alone, Hogan messing up, getting a chant at him that he messed up. That would be my answer.
In the Silver Dome, brother.
All right, so Cheerbros Wagons, thank you for that question. Shout out to Randy for sending that in. Our next question is, I'm probably going to butcher this, Ignacio Grams or Ignacio_Grams to be
Ignacio.
All right, fair enough. Thank you. Who do you think will be the one to beat Roman Reigns, and who gets the AEW title first, Punk or Bryan? A little bit of a 2-part question here. I am going to start with Jim Barry. What do you got?
I see for the Roman question, I think it's going to be Drew, who might not be the most exciting answer for a lot of people, but I think he's the safest answer, and he's still generally well liked amongst the fan base. He might have been cooled down a little bit, but he's still popular. I love him. I think he's the perfect guy to do it. I wish it had been Big E, but that's not the world we live in. So I'm good with Drew until The Rock versus Roman happens, because I really don't want it to be The Rock.
Okay, and Punk or Bryan, who's winning the AEW title first?
I think it's going to be Bryan, but I think no matter who it is, it's going to be a heel version of them. I don't see either of them winning the title as a babyface. And I don't even know if they're going to take it off Hangman or Kenny. Or I say Hangman because we all assume it's going to be Hangman to take it off Kenny. But I think we're going to still wait a little while before we see either man become world champion.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Chad, what do you got? First, who do you think is going to beat Roman, and then the Punk or Bryan?
Firstly, that's so hard because they've built Roman incredibly this last year. I must say, as someone who's not the biggest Roman fan, he has won me over with his work ethic this last year for sure. This head of the table gimmick has been great for him. As far as beating him, I guess Brock, just not now, maybe. I really don't know. I'm kind of in between with that. I think Brock takes it, just not at Crown Jewel, perhaps.
Okay.
And it was Punk or Bryan, correct?
Yeah, who will get the AEW title first between those two?
Hot take. I'm gonna go Punk, but only because what James said. I think Hangman takes it, and I think they need a heel. And I don't see Bryan being a heel for some time. I do see Punk turning heel quicker than Bryan, but only like maybe a month or two beforehand. So I'll say Punk. I really don't know. I don't think either of them touch the title until late next year, if anything.
Fair enough. I think we all feel similarly about that. Rev, first question, who's going to be Roman?
I think James is right. The only person I can see at this present moment is Drew. And if they are intending on taking the title off of Roman before WrestleMania so that Rock versus Roman isn't for the title, I think Drew is the only viable candidate they have at the moment. As for Punk versus Bryan, quite frankly, depending on how long both of them are there, and I guess they'll be there for long enough, but I don't even know if either of them are going to win the title, but I have to give the odds to Bryan here because I don't necessarily know if Punk wants to be in the position to win the title. At least not the AEW title. He might get a TNT title reign at some point, which I think would be very cool. He could win the AEW title, but I'm just not entirely sure he wants to go over somebody to win the title. You know what I mean? Like where he is now and what he's trying to do, work with guys he wants to help build their careers. I don't think that's the position he wants to be in. So my leaning is towards Bryan because he is obviously a very, very credible threat to the champion and a very, very credible champion.
Well put. Well put. I think I'm with you there. Yeah, it's got to be Drew. If there's anyone in WWE on the main roster in NXT, it's Drew. I mean, I think it won't be till like SummerSlam maybe, because I think Roman beats Rock in a title defense at WrestleMania, whatever. That'll be fun. And then yeah, it has to be Drew. There's no one else they've even made close to his level. But for Punk and Bryan, I think it's interesting. Like, I'm leaning more towards Bryan, but I actually think Bryan might end up becoming TNT champion, because he definitely wants to have those open challenges like every week. Like, I can easily picture him doing that. So I guess Punk. I actually think that they won't turn heel necessarily right away, maybe after they win the title. But I think that whoever it is, they'll take it off MJF, because I think MJF ends Hangman's reign. And this is me like booking way into the future, but like that's something I could see happening. But moving on to our next question is actually from a friend of mine, goes by the name of John Blattner. And his question is pretty simple. Just what is your favorite wrestling video game? I don't know how big a gamers
Both companies.
But Chad, what's the best one? I feel like there's only 3 answers, so.
No Mercy. Period.
All right, there we go. James?
I actually have in the background right now WWE 2K19.
That's a great one.
I think it's the best 2K that they put out. Yeah, 2K19 is really good. No Mercy is the gold standard. And I really liked Here Comes the Pain as a kid.
I loved Here Comes the Pain. So thank you for that.
There you go.
If I didn't say No Mercy, that would have been my answer.
Here Comes the Pain is my answer. So Rev, what's yours?
I'm going to be honest. I didn't play a lot of wrestling games growing up. I was more of a Madden MLB type of guy.
All right. So what was the best MLB game?
MVP Baseball 2005. That's not even a question.
All right. I accept that.
Okay. But when I was in college, my senior year, me and my roommates had a copy of WWE 13, and I want to say it was a Raw versus SmackDown from like 07 or 08 or something. And we just used to do Royal Rumbles. And if you won with one of your first 4 guys, or if we just did all computers and one of your first 4 guys won, everyone had to buy you beer. So those 2 games were my favorite because we just gambled on them and then we had a good time.
There we go. Nice association.
Fun fact, I have a few replica championships. The first one I ever got was winning in a SmackDown vs. Raw tournament. And for that SmackDown vs. Raw, the whole series has a special place in my heart.
Okay. I mean, you do strike me as the type of person to have a replica title. Take that how you want. So our next question is from Robert Christie 317. Tough, hard-hitting question here. When will the great Khali make his triumphant return to WWE? I assume is implied there. I'm gonna turn it over to, I assume, the great Khali's biggest fan, at least amongst this group of people. James, you look eager to answer this.
It's only fair that even when I'm not with Rob, he's torturing me. But Rob, for your sake, when you're watching this at home, I hope he makes a speedy return. I hope he chops whoever he needs to chop. I cannot wait for the backstage segments of him going to the gym. And with as big as he is, you'll never see him coming.
All right. Well, way to give that more time than I think it deserved. Chad, when is Khali coming back?
He's not. If he does, it'll be an anniversary or a super show, and he'll do a quick promo or something like that. I don't think he comes back, at least full time, probably ever again. Sorry.
All right. So I forgot to throw to this person last question, but Nick, what do you think is going to happen? Nick? Maniotis.
Euler.
Okay, guys.
Euler.
I don't know what happened to Nick. He was just here a minute ago. If we get any update on what happened to him, we'll let you know. Hopefully he's okay. Reverend, would you care to answer the question?
Yeah, it is Halloween. Some spooky shit might have happened. Or it's almost Halloween. Honestly, if he doesn't return on Thursday or next Thursday when freaking Crown Jewel happens and to help Jinder Mahal win King of the Ring, when probably next year's Hall of Fame ceremony. But, he's not going back, Robert. Get your shit out of your ass.
Existence. It's gonna happen now.
I mean, they already did it once, and realistically, I can't believe I'm answering this seriously, but they like the quote-unquote legends over there in Saudi Arabia. Bringing him back is not completely out of the realm of possibility, as stupid as that sounds.
That's true, actually. Damn.
We're using the term legend with the Great Khali.
I used finger quotes, okay?
Well, he was world champion at one point, so...
Okay, so now let this continue on. The next question is from ANAV_55, who I believe is someone. It's a WWE related question. Do you think Becky is better as a heel or a face? And the AEW question, will Hangman win the title? So I'm actually going to field this one first because I'm hosting. I can do whatever I want, can't stop me. I think as far as Becky as a heel goes, it's not a cut and dry answer, but I would say as a face because, she reached face of the company levels of over. She reached Bryan in 2014 and Punk in 2011. Status of over. She reached the level of over they always wished Roman Reigns was as a face. But to argue against my own answer, that came off the back of her turning heel and everyone just being so on her side that it wouldn't stick, and she had to go immediately back to being face. And it also ties into my earlier point about wins and losses matter, because Becky won 12 matches in a row before the SummerSlam match, and that's why she was so over going into that. But anyway, I do believe Hangman will win the title. I think it's his time. I think you got to get the belt off Kenny's because there's so much lined up for Kenny. And I've said it multiple times last week and this week, I really think the next Punk and Kenny match has to be without the title so we can just have a finish one way or the other. Because I'm personally rooting for Bryan, and I don't want him winning the title as soon as he comes in and just shitting all over the ranking system. So I'm going to turn it back to Rev, who is the other giant Becky Lynch mark among us. Not that we all aren't, but it's there's layers to it. So Rev, what do you got for these questions?
What up, Navarro? Thanks for the question. I think this is actually a very well-timed question, surprisingly enough, because there have been recent reports that apparently Becky wanted to come back as a face as opposed to previous reporting when she initially came back that she wanted to come back heel. And when she came back, she was told she was being heel despite the fact she wanted to be face. So I think at the least, Becky likes being a face better. Perhaps she thinks she's better at it. I don't know. But despite the fact I think Becky's doing a very good job at being a heel right now, I think she's really funny. She's kind of leaning into the Conor McGregor type stuff a bit. She literally stole his line in one of her first promos back. So she's doing a great job as being a heel. But face Becky, who still acts a little heelish, the man as she was instead of big time Bex, I enjoyed that character a bit more than this current one. As for Hangman, yes, he's winning the title. They've literally created AEW to tell Hangman's story so that he can win the title. He's the main character of AEW. I think he could win. I think he can win it at Full Gear. I don't think they're going to wait much longer because then they have to wait a whole nother quarter to get to the next pay-per-view. So I got him winning at Full Gear, assuming that match happens, and I'm fucking excited for it.
There we go. I am too. And you know what? To piggyback and just railroad and put off letting James answer these questions, I think the story about Becky is a very interesting one because even from a personal standpoint aside, like, how could you not bring back your biggest face as a face? Like, they learned from Stone Cold and The Rock at WrestleMania, like, sometimes it's just not the right time to turn someone. When they're hot, they're hot. We've been waiting a year and a half for someone to come back, and to turn it heel when people just want to cheer her. We don't want to boo her. Anyone booing her is just like, fine, we'll play along. We want to cheer Becky. She still kind of gets the most cheers. The heel turn's working for its job of getting Bianca over. Bianca is more over than she was before. Not that she wasn't over before. She was over before, but she has broken into the 4 horsewomen echelon of being over. So it is working in that regard. But Becky is still getting the best reactions out of anyone in the women's division, and will, because of course she will. But so I don't blame her for not wanting to, because her ride with the fans, like, you don't get those. That's organic. Like, you really barely ever get that. It's her, it's Brian, it's Punk. Like, you know, there was Rusev had one, Ryder had one, but you know, they never broke through the glass ceiling like Becky, Bryan, and Punk did. Not that they couldn't, just the deck was stacked against them. So I think it's an interesting story. I think, of course, she would want to be face. I don't blame her for that. James, I've held you off for long enough. First, Becky, better heel or face? You're probably going to be balanced and impartial, so that's right.
I think she's damn good no matter what she does. I think she has her character down to a T, and she knows how to make it work as a heel. She knows how to make it work as a face. I think it was a little bit of a rough start with this heel turn, just because fans didn't know we were supposed to boo her at first. We were angry that Bianca lost, but we weren't necessarily angry at Becky. But they did it. We're in it, and now I think she's going to really thrive. And it's hard not to see similarities between her and Seth's current character of, like, the drip god. Like, they're both these over-the-top cartoony bad guys, and I think they're both good enough to make them work. And I want to see Becky as a face. I want to be able to cheer her and cheer her because I'm supposed to cheer her. But, you know, time will tell on this heel turn. But yeah, I preferably babyface.
Fair enough. And do you think Hangman Page will win the title?
Again, Hangman is another case of when, not if. Every member, I don't know if people remember this, but a couple years back, the Elite were being interviewed. Kenny, Cody, the Bucks, and they basically all said that Hangman was the best of them. He is the future. And it's true. It's not just that he's their buddy that they want to see succeed. I think Hangman has the capability of being a generational babyface, just because in this day and age where so many people are unsure of themselves, so many people are looking for someone to represent them, Hangman is that guy right now. This comparison has been thrown out a lot, and it almost feels unfair to Hangman to do this, but he feels like a millennial Stone Cold. Like Stone Cold. Yeah. He is fighting he's fighting to feel like he belongs. He's fighting to find his own value. And I'm 29 years old, and I could say I could relate to that. I'd be hard pressed to find many people in this age range who haven't felt that way at some point or another. And I think they really knew that this is a case of long-term storytelling that is almost unheard of in professional wrestling today. And it's working. Like, I can't think of a story I'm more invested in than Hangman's rise and fall and rise again, if we're being honest. And he is going to be AEW champion. I don't know when, but it's going to be soon. And by God, let the Dark Order be there.
Absolutely. They should be there. As always, well put, James. So just simple yes or no. When he has this match from winning the number one contenders from the ladder match, does he win the title this next match, whenever it is? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
All right.
Yes. Yes.
There we go. There we go. And not to gloss over the amazing points you make, because I do think they were amazing. So I want to just really quick touch on them. The way you described his babyface rise and fall, I think was beautifully put. And I think one of the main differences that make him so compelling is the fact that he's flawed. Whereas, like, how was Roman Reigns as a babyface flawed? How was John Cena as a babyface flawed? We saw that with Punk, we saw that with Bryan, we saw that with Becky, but like they were never explored to this length, the way that this is being explored. And the interview you mentioned where they said he was the best of them, if I had seen that interview when it came out, I would have been like, yeah, right, you guys are just biased about your friend. Get the hell out of here. Now I'm like, man, maybe these guys actually knew what they were talking about back then. Like they were right. So one quick note to any of the fans who submit questions. If you submit Becky's name in a question, we're going to get off the rails. I'm going to talk about it forever. So I'm going to throw it to Chad before we move on to the next question. First part, Chad, Becky, better as heel or face?
All right. I'm a Becky stan as well. I'm going to say that I do like Becky more as a face. However, I'm going to name drop real quick. One of my favorite wrestlers. Becky Lynch to me is like Beth Phoenix. I don't care if she's face, heel, commentating, a champion or not. I'm going towards Becky regardless. She's it. She's it, period. I don't care what she's a likable heel. She's a likable face. I can't see me not rooting for her at any point in time. But I do like her more as a face.
All right. I think that's well put. And I can go on a 20-minute rant about how amazing Beth Phoenix is. And I wish she would wrestle more matches still.
Hell yeah.
I'd love to see her versus Becky. That would be so good. I know you already said yes, but just, for the sake, will Hangman win the title?
Absolutely. It's written in the stars, as the poets say. It has to happen. I'm recently, everyone knows I'm new to AEW, but all I've heard about AEW is this guy, Adam, and Hangman. To the point where I had to do research myself and look up who he was, and then I'm like, damn, story it's there. It's pretty cool. It's lucrative. So yeah, absolutely. It's not if, it's when, as James said.
Absolutely. We're all hoping for it, and we all think it's going to happen sooner rather than later. So moving on to our next question is from a dear friend of mine, Kevin Wisegamgee. I feel like I said that right. This is another reference to a series I didn't watch, but his question is most underrated wrestler in AEW, and I'm going to give his answer real quick because I know it. It is Hybrid 2.0. It's Jack Evans and Angelico. But I'm gonna throw it over to Reverend first. Who do you think is the most underrated wrestler in AEW right now?
Because I talked about it last week, the first thing that came to mind were pretty much every member of the Dark Order. Like I said the other week, their character work tends to overshadow their in-ring work. And just to single one of the guys out, I think Stu Grayson is incredibly underrated. That dude can go. He is far stronger than he looks and can lift almost anybody. And he works very, very well with Uno. And I would also like to see him in a singles match every once in a while, like a Nick Jackson type thing where it's very rare, but when it happens, it's fucking awesome. So my answer right now off the top of my head is going to be Stu Grayson.
Okay, I like that. Chad, who's the most underrated wrestler in AEW? Very interesting from your perspective, as only recently started watching.
Right. First of all, I hate you, Rev, because I was going to say Stu Grayson. So he is there. But I have a four-way tie if I'm allowed to do that.
Sure.
Go for it.
Stu Grayson was my absolute number one. Number two for me is Luchasaurus, even though he is over. He's over as hell. But I think everybody looks at Jungle Boy more so. And I feel like Luchasaurus's individuality has been speaking a lot lately. And then my last two are actually James will appreciate Abaddon. And I'm very fond of Red Velvet. I can't really explain why. I just think she's good in the ring.
She has a likable face.
She's very nice to look at. And she's not bad in the ring. So those are my four-way tie. But Stu Grayson was the number one.
I think you just so I have to think of another answer now because I was definitely going to say Luchasaurus.
Oh shit! Sorry, bro.
No, it's
We're
great.
just out here stealing each other's answers.
Right.
Yeah. So, but man, well put. I'm sorry. So it was Luchasaurus, Stu Grayson, Red Velvet. Who was the fourth?
Abaddon.
Oh my God.
She's great.
The person who asked the question, Kevin, his brother, loves Abaddon because he's a big horror fan. So you just popped him for sure.
She scares the shit out of me, which I think is the point.
Yeah. James, I know I'm making fun of you for it, but you're gonna give a great answer. It's gonna be well spoken. Let's freaking hear it. Who's it gonna be?
I actually needed to take a second. I heard what everyone said, but I needed to take a second to actually look at that roster because it is so stacked. I don't think there is a better roster in wrestling right now, even if they don't all get represented the way they're supposed to. I don't think there's a better roster, but there is one guy who I'm so grateful has gotten this opportunity with AEW, and it's Chuck Taylor. Chucky T is a guy who has been killing it for so long, but almost never got the recognition. At one point, people thought he was going to be retired a couple of years ago. And then thankfully, Trent helped bring him into New Japan and some Ring of Honor stuff. And Chuck really saw his career get revitalized. And here in AEW, he still might not be the flashiest member of his team, his unit. I think when you think of the Best Friends or that whole group, you're going to be looking at Orange Cassidy, obviously. You're going to be looking at Trent, who has gone against the main event talent before. You're going to be looking at Chris Statlander, who is, incredible in her own right. And now everyone's looking at Wheeler Yuta, who every one of those members deserves to be looked at. But Chucky has been consistent throughout all of it. He's there to support Orange. He's there to support Trent. He delivers in the tag matches. The rare times that he gets those one-on-one matches, he reminds people, it's like, holy crap, Chuck Taylor. So he's definitely my number one answer. And I hope that he gets more opportunities. I would love to see him have a TNT title match. He doesn't need a win, but I would just love him to have a good long match. And for the women, I agree. Abaddon, I'm waiting for her to get her shot. I think she needs to be developed a little bit more, but hey, she can only be developed when they use her. And again, just looking at this women's roster, she is definitely someone who's in a place where she's putting people over, but I think Penelope Ford has all the tools to be successful in the future. She just, she's green and she's young, and that time will come. And go ahead.
I was going to say her match with Shida for the title, that was a last minute match because of I think injury or COVID. I don't remember. That match was really good.
Yeah. And I just got to give one last shout out. I don't know if he's underrated, but we have definitely not seen the best of him yet. It's coming. Ricky Starks is just star waiting to shine.
Yeah, absolutely.
They talked about the 4 pillars of AEW the other week, and I was really upset they didn't include Ricky in there. I really think he's that. He's in the
next group of 4. He just him, Eddie, and a couple others. They're the next group of 4.
Definitely.
Him, Eddie, Dante Martin, and like one other person are the next 4 after them.
Definitely.
Yeah. I don't know. I think he's not there yet, but he's like right there. He's getting close to those other guys.
It's literally just because they were there first. That's the
like. All right, that's fair. Also, I need Chucky T to say shit on television. I need that payoff, TNT. Come on, Tony Khan, give it to me.
It's killing me that we have heard the word shit so many times in now AEW and WWE, and I still haven't heard Chucky say shit.
I think he tweeted out he was giving up on it, and it broke my heart.
To quote a great Guardian of the Galaxy, give me what I want. Shit.
Okay. Well, references are cool. So I was going to say Luchasaurus, but that's already been covered. I think even though James was basically saying they're not underrated because he's one of the more presented guys, it's funny you said Chuck Taylor because my mind actually went to Trent because he is put against the singles guys and they clearly were grooming him to be like upper mid-card guy that occasionally floats into the main event, and they like him so much, and to me it's so obvious. I don't think he's necessarily underrated as much as not everyone sees that. They don't see how big of a deal AEW thinks Trent is. They think Trent's better than we even think he is, like the way they presented him. Like they keep treating him like this big powerhouse guy, and it's funny because he is way more brolic than when he was like Trent's WWE, Trent Beretta, but they have clearly positioned him like that. Now, I still will argue that top 3 endings to Dynamite was the tag match of Cassidy and Chuck Taylor versus Rusev and Kip Sabian, and Statlander popping out of the vending machine, and then Trent returning with his mom's minivan driving down, and just having that episode end with them in the ring celebrating, doing the zoom out on the hug, and Where Is My Mind playing. It felt like a movie ended. I know a famous movie ended with that song playing, but that felt like such a special. That didn't feel like wrestling. That felt like a movie. That felt like a big season finale of a TV show. Like that felt special. And if Trent hadn't gotten injured so many times in such a short span, we would see how much they rate him. But because he's almost underrated by lack of ability to wrestle at the moment. And for the women, I would even say that Chris Statlander is somehow underrated despite only losing 1 match this year, because everyone seemed to kind of like gloss over that in the build up to her versus Britt. But yeah, definitely my answer is going to be Trent Beretta or Trent.
Calling it right now, I want the best friends in Orange Cassidy to be, when they debut a trios title, I want them to be the inaugural champions.
Give me it.
I'm all for that.
Period.
Let's not forget too the street fight that the best friends had with Santana and Ortiz to end that episode of Dynamite. What an absolute banger. Just a further preview point. And you know what? Throw Santana and Ortiz on my list too. I love those guys, and I don't think they are on TV nearly enough.
There we go.
Great.
There we go, Kevin. We answered your question.
2 Lord of the Rings names from questions being called in.
Yeah, that was cool. I like it.
Yeah.
All right. So O'Sullivan 27 asks, will AEW ever move to a WrestleMania style event over major pay-per-views? Basically meaning, will AEW on like Double or Nothing weekend or All Out weekend have the full kind of event where they'll have sign-ins beforehand, almost like a WrestleMania Access like show? Will they make a whole week out of it, or a whole weekend out of it, or will they strictly stick to just the pay-per-view events and maybe the 1 or 2 sign-ins beforehand like they did in Chicago? I forgot the name of the sign-in event, but I know CM Punk was at it before he joined AEW. So I think only one person can rightfully answer this question, and he is the most mustached of us all. So please take it away.
I think, truth be told, we're already kind of there. Rampage being on Fridays, them being so open to doing YouTube shows and extra content. I think it's just a matter of time before they make a Saturday event to get people hyped for Sunday. And truth be told, they even do pay-per-views sometimes on Saturdays. It's not that I think AEW's done a couple of them.
I like that. I can stay up later.
Yeah, I like it on Saturday.
Yeah, right. When I'm gonna plug a personal moment here. I attended the AEW panel at New York Comic Con this last weekend, and one of the questions was asked about whether or not, like, what is their WrestleMania? Are they ever going to have their own WrestleMania? And the general answer that was given, and has been consistently given, is that they don't want to have one big event. They want all four of their events to feel equally as big. I think Tony Schiavone said that Double or Nothing is their big event. Like, it is their biggest event. But even then, we've seen other cards, other pay-per-view cards feel bigger for them. I wouldn't mind having a whole weekend of AEW, but I think they're on pace right now to keeping things feel fresh and keeping things feel wanted without oversaturating themselves. And that's impressive considering how much television they are running between Dark Elevation, between Rampage, between Dynamite, and then whatever pay-per-views they do. I think the timing is gonna feel natural when it does happen. And in the meantime, whatever little bits they do add in always feel appreciated.
Well, that was very wordy. But I do agree. And I like the way you brought up how they want to make them all feel equal. And I think with All Out and Double or Nothing, they feel incredibly equal already. And I think they've kind of made Revolution feel very, very close, like right beneath. Full Gear is the only one they need to do a little more work on, which, hey, maybe if Hangman Page wins the title there, it'll boost it up the echelon. So, Chad, what do you think, more or less, about what James said and the question? You know, how do you feel?
I mean, James is James. He really said it best. Let me preface this by saying I do not like WrestleMania 2-night events. It is so exhausting for me. As I think it's exhausting for like the biggest wrestling fan, period. It's just, it's long, it's drawn out. AEW, however, I like the idea much more. I hate to say it. Like James said, the pacing and how everything is brought to us content wise, it just feels more natural that when they do it, I'm all in.
Pun intended. Clearly.
Damn it.
Rev, do you want to wrap us up on this question?
Yeah. I don't think they really need to do much more than they're doing now. You know, I think, especially now that they have Rampage on Friday and then it goes right into the pay-per-view, whether that's on Saturday or Sunday, is very good. I have to agree with Chad with you here. Considering how long WrestleMania is, I don't mind it being 2 nights, but I just hate the length of it in general. I think the whole thing is too much. And you add 2 nights of WrestleMania with a takeover, and then there's Access, and then you have SmackDown on Fridays now, and then Raw on Monday. It's like 5 or 6 days of wrestling for that weekend, and that's way too much. Right now, AEW's got 2 out of 4, if you want to count Friday and Monday, and that seems perfect to me. And plus, they do a very good job of not making the wrestlers be at AEW all the time. You know, especially if you take somebody like Britt Baker, who literally has another job. She can't always be at everything, or not everything, but she can't always be at AEW all of the time. Other people have other bookings. You know, they work in other companies. So them taking up an entirety of a weekend where people could be working, people could, you know, be doing whatever else, just kind of feels counterproductive for what they've built so far. And again, to James's point, you don't want to oversaturate things, because the pace they're at right now to me is perfect. I'm not overwhelmed by watching AEW. When I was watching WWE, I at times felt overwhelmed by how much I had to watch. And if you missed something, you kind of fell behind and you fell back and you felt bad about it. Now every episode is the same. It doesn't matter. But with AEW, I can keep up. It's a very reasonable pace. and I want to watch everything because I'm going to want to know what happened previously, so I know what happened. So I'm up to date when everything next starts happening. So I think they're fine the way it is. I don't think they need to. If they want to throw a little more fanfare around Double or Nothing or something, fine. But I don't think they really need to. I think they're perfect the way they are.
And
That's so sweet.
I was gonna say that was really, really gooey at the end there. Ew.
it really was. But
Ooh.
I've said it.
Shower.
I've said it before, even tonight. I'm someone who attends a lot of wrestling events. I've been to many WrestleManias at this point. I've been to many pay-per-views, many shows. I would much rather, as a fan, deal with the one day of WrestleMania, even if it is 6 hours. The longest I ever been to WrestleMania was like 9 hours. It was tough, but I did it. Doing it 2 days in a row is not only exhausting, it's financially a burden because you have to buy 2 tickets, and not knowing what's going to get booked ahead of time. If you only buy one, God help you if you buy the wrong show, you know? So I hope AEW doesn't need to get to that point. Like, going even to other companies, Wrestle Kingdom, who does 2 nights. I understand why they do it, but I would rather just see tighter booking. WWE is in a position where if you're at WrestleMania, you want to see every title defended. Well, they have a shit ton of titles that they need to defend. Of course, it's going to be a long show. AEW, as big as their roster is still a smaller show. So I think they're fine the way they are for right now.
Yes. You think they're fine the way they are. Reverend thinks they're perfect. Someone sounds a little more jaded about it, but I think the takeaway here is too much of anything, good or bad, is ultimately too much. And also, quick controversial statement. I don't think main event in night 1 of WrestleMania really counts, but whatever. Moving on.
Whoa! A bomb of a comment, and then just wanting to leave. Wow!
That's how we do it.
That hot take set my fire alarm off.
I don't think it was that hot of a take, but clearly you guys disagree, and that's fine. But our next question is from Bigfoot is Blurry 420, and he wants to know, I'm assuming he wants to know, why do all of you guys have beards? I don't know how to answer that one, but it's a little outdated. Clearly, this person hasn't seen what James looks like now, so this question is a little outdated. I'd say for me personally, it's because I don't have much of a chin, so without the beard, it's kind of like...
Same, I hate this right now. I need you to know, like, I feel very exposed, and my chin feels like Ed from Ed, Ed, and Eddie. It's not a good look.
I mean, if I clicked on our video and your face was the first face I saw and I didn't know what the channel was, I would think it was a different type of video. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Bob's Burgers video, like a cosplay.
Yeah, there we go. Way to save him. I'm you know what? I'm just gonna move on to a more serious question. This is once again from John Blattner, and he simply wants to know, and I'm gonna throw this one straight to Rev. Are AEW taking part in the nationwide strike, or was the Rangers game that important that Dynamite had to move? And I really don't know, because isn't this the beginning of the hockey season? So I really don't know how important this game is. Rev?
Right. My time to shine. Sports. Okay. So for those of you who don't know, the NHL had been on NBC for, I think, about the last 15 to 20 years. ESPN used to have it 18 years ago, and they lost the TV rights. And this past season, NBC, their rights deal lapsed, and they had gotten pretty lazy with their coverage in general. It just hadn't been good. So NBC, the NHL decided to go in a different direction and sign rights deals with ESPN again and with TNT. Last night was NHL opening night on ESPN. Tonight was the first night of hockey on TNT. They're going to get Wednesdays now because TNT also has the NBA, and the NBA is on TNT on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So that is why the NHL is on Wednesday, and that is why Dynamite is eventually moving to TBS so they don't conflict with the NHL. Why? Yeah, so I don't know what they're going to do with Dynamite in the meantime, because as far as I know, every Wednesday night is a hockey night on TNT now. So we'll see what ends up happening. But until that move, you might find Dynamite at a couple weird time slots for the time being.
Well, that is unfortunate. I think you explained it as well as possible. I think you're the biggest sports fan here, at least pertaining to hockey.
I ignored the Rangers for a reason, by the way. I don't want to talk about it.
Fair enough. I mean, do James, Chad, do you have any comments on this? I'm sure you can manufacture one, James, but do you have any actual gut reactions to this?
I mean, I think the Reverend did a great job. I just, the only comment is I think this is why the move to TBS is such a great idea, and the sooner the better.
I'm with you. Chad?
Nothing. Rev covered it.
All right, there we go.
And I know we talked about this off air for a minute, but TBS is actually in more households than TNT. So this actually benefits AEW a bit, surprisingly, despite the fact that the TNT title kind of becomes a little weird. But, you know, more eyeballs can only mean better things for AEW.
Yeah,
Agreed.
and I think this will just ultimately be a good move. With that being said, we're actually done with our questions, which sadly for everyone means we are done with our podcast. And I don't think there is much more to say besides we miss Conan, screw Jay Leno. Thank you for listening to the Market Down podcast. I have been Daniel Hernandez. I haven't said my real name all night. I was luckily graciously joined by Nick Maniotis, who we still don't know whatever happened to him.
The search party's out. They're looking. I'll let you know when I find them.
James and the regular sized peach, Gisante. Chad Big Bad Johnson. You have your own nickname, so I've got to give you a bunch of them. And Lord Reverend Nick Cummings, we thank you once again for watching the Market Down podcast. Like and subscribe. Don't forget, James will wrap if we have 100 subscribers. Good night.
Check the socials in the description. Thank you, everybody, for your questions.
And I'm Brazilian. My peach is large. Just gonna say it.
Good night.
Title of the podcast right there.